Welcome, everybody. Welcome, 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 and happy Monday evening to all of you. First, I just want to say thank you so much for joining the Diversity On and Off Stage public gathering. My name is Arlethea Hailstock, and I am a proud member of this collective. And we are super excited to have some returning faces and some new faces with us tonight. So thank you, everybody, for giving us about an hour of your time, and we'll do our best to respect your time. But we also want to make room for everything that everyone wants to share tonight. Just in case you don't know, this is part 2 of our call in regards to musicians and music venues. We had planned, honestly, to take the month of December off, but because we had an incredibly robust conversation last month, we said we just got to do it again. So thank you so much for joining us. I'll go ahead and let you know now, and I'll make mention of it again at the end of the call, that our next call will be on Monday, January 25th at 7 p.m. And that night, we will focus on dancers and the dance community here in Charlotte. So we hope you'll come back because music and dance kind of go together. So we hope you'll join us for that one as well. But before we get started, I have a little bit of a game, a little icebreaker that I'd like to play with you guys. So I hope you'll join in. So I'm gonna show you some pictures of exotic, somebody said they were exotic instruments. And I want somebody to kind of raise their hand and tell me, I'm gonna share my screen, but if I can call on Joe, do you mind picking somebody to answer the question if somebody thinks they know what the name of an instrument that I'm gonna show is?
Sure. Are they gonna? Do you want them to raise their hand with the little buttons, or just physically raise their hand?
You can physically raise your hand. Yes. Okay. Is that all right with you?
That's good with me.
Okay, cool. And Kale, you're gonna watch the waiting room in case anybody comes in. Will you do that?
Will.
All right, thank you. I'm gonna share my screen here in just a sec. Oh man, I let you guys see the answer already.
Oh.
Okay, all right, so.
She, her.
It's all right. In case you didn't see it, look at this cool instrument. Does anybody know what this is called? Will there be one who raises their hand?
I think John Tosco knows. I hear him saying it.
Yeah, John Tosco knows?
Go, John, go.
I was just talking about it, and it's related, ironically, to our show coming up this weekend features an instrument called the glass harp, is what he calls it, where he's playing somebody who plays water glasses, all the 50 wine glasses filled with water.
Very
this instrument, I believe, is very similar. It's the same concept, invented by Benjamin Franklin.
Ben Franklin, yeah.
And wait a minute. It's not harmonica, but like harmonica, something harmonica.
So I did see that is also on the list that I got this from, but apparently, according to Sam Ash, this is called a hydrolophone.
Hydrolophone.
Well,
hydrolophone. Very cool.
Somebody Google Ben Franklin and water harmonica.
Yeah. All right. So here's another one that to me didn't even look like an instrument. It looked like an old rusty shower head. But does anybody know what this is called?
Never heard of it.
No? All right. This one's called a lure, and it's similar. It's like played like you would play a shofar, which is really difficult to play. Like you got to have some good lungs to play that thing. All right. Next up, this one looks like a hair dryer, but it's not. Anybody know what this is called?
Yeah.
No hands? No.
That would be an ocarina.
Ocarina.
Yeah.
Yes.
Yeah.
Yes, very good. It's a wind instrument and it's made out of clay, an ocarina. Very cool. Next one. This just looks lovely. And it doesn't even look like an instrument. Anybody, have you ever seen this this image before?
Oh,
Nobody? This is called a singing ringing tree. I think it's beautiful, and basically the wind blows through it and it's played that way. So like a person doesn't play it, it's just played by the wind. What about this one?
a viol.
It's not a yellow violin.
It's a viol.
A viol, yes. Ooh, I love it. And apparently it's a deep harp-like instrument. Who was that who knew the answer? Have you ever played this before?
Viol.
No.
I don't know who said it. I can't find.
I can't tell either.
I'm scrolling through as fast as I can with all these.
Maybe they have their microphone on, but their camera.
Cindy Frank said it. Cindy.
Fantastic. Thank you, Cindy.
No, I didn't. Keel
Okay,
said it.
This is the last one. Anybody know what this is called?
Lightning?
Any takers, Joe?
No. Oh yeah. I don't see anybody raising their hand.
Okay.
If you know it, just say it, everybody, because I can't scroll through fast enough to see. Everybody's
No
got
worries.
their cameras off.
This is called a sousaphone, and it's made of singing Tesla coils, and it works off of musical lightning. I don't really know what that means, but if you want to find out more about these instruments, go to Sam Ash Spotlight, that blog, and I will put the link in our chat in just a second. So I'm going to stop sharing now. And I want to introduce our host for tonight. We were really, really lucky to have Joni Deutsch returning for the second part of our conversation on music and music venues. And if you don't know, Joni, I was talking about saying her name wrong and I did it anyway. Joni works for WFAE, and she is the on-demand content and audience engagement manager. And she also hosts the Amplifier podcast. So she knows the Charlotte music scene inside and out, and there's really no one who could lead this conversation better than Joni. So please welcome Joni Deutsch. Joni, come on back, friends.
Hi, Alethea. Thank you.
You are
and thanks for
welcome.
everyone for being here. Alethea, I felt like I failed that pop quiz, but I gained a lot of like spiritual, emotional energy from it, which is just as good as passing a test, I think. So thanks for all the fun facts.
You're welcome, friend. You're welcome.
And again, thanks for everyone joining us tonight, spending a little bit of your Monday night with us. For those who may not know, we were here on November 9th in this virtual space together as a music and arts community as we were talking about the subject of music and how to be able to create a stronger music ecosystem for all communities of color, for different neighborhoods. Obviously, Charlotte music, like other parts of the art scene in the Charlotte area, it's diverse, it's talented, it needs to be supported in so many different ways. And so part of this conversation tonight, as well as the one we had on November 9th, is really just about what can we do together to make sure that all parts of this ecosystem, from the singers and songwriters to the talent buyers and bookers, the venues, the stages, the promoters, the list goes on, how can all these octopus arms work together in harmony and support one another as we build up this city together? We had a really productive conversation about a month ago. I'm happy we're doing a part 2 tonight. A reminder that tonight's conversation is being streamed live on Facebook. So feel free, you're welcome to share this live recording. It'll also be archived following the conversation tonight. And of course, too, you're very welcome to contribute. We encourage you to contribute tonight. If you want to get on camera, you're very welcome to either put a little comment in the Zoom comment chat room and say that you have a comment, you want to share an idea or a thought, a story. You can also use the little comment card that says raise hand, and it'll raise your hand virtually in the Zoom room, and we'll know that you're wanting to speak. If you're not speaking, I would go ahead and just mute your microphone, and that way we can make sure we hear everyone clearly who is speaking. So again, if you're not on the microphone technically, go ahead, if you can, go ahead and mute yourself, mute your audio for the Zoom call, and that way we can hear those that are speaking clearly and hear their stories clearly. With that said, tonight, the purpose of what we're doing, the purpose of tonight's diversity on and off stage conversation is really creating actionable steps, creating action items, tactics, things that we want to do as a music scene to move forward together. These action items can be based off of your personal experiences. They can be based off of a goal that you'd love to see Charlotte music go through in 2021. It's weird to think we're already getting into the end of this year and early next. But again, what we're going to do tonight is we're going to make a list of the action items, the things that you want to see happen in all parts of music in the next year. We have representatives from across Charlotte Music on the call tonight. We have venue owners, we have musicians, we have everything in between and around that. So just know that your thoughts are valued, your voice is valued and valuable, and no idea is too big or too small. Likewise for perspectives, likewise for stories. So this is an open space. We're going to listen and support you. So with all that said, what I would like to do is actually start off with a person, one of the individuals who was with us on the last call. So we have here Greg. Greg McCraw is the president of Max Music. He also is with the Neighborhood Theater. For those who may not have been on the call with us on November 9th, we spoke about the need for venues and for bookers and talent buyers in the Charlotte area for not only them in supporting local live music and artists of color by booking them on stages, but also behind the scenes and what can be done to encourage the next generation or new talent or diverse individuals who are able to help book shows, help book the stages. Because look, diversity isn't just on stage, it's also off stage. So Greg, I'd love it if you could get on the microphone for a little bit on video. And since our last call on November 9th, what were your thoughts since then and what have you done since then?
Sure. Can you see me now?
We can. Thanks for joining us.
Good. I can't see myself, which is probably a good thing. My hair is not nearly as good as yours. So the last meeting, or since the last meeting, I would have to say I've had a lot of good interactions. One of the ones I guess I can talk about is Jason, who I'm not sure if he's on here tonight, but I'm headed over to his studio on Wednesday. But we've had some long conversations about setting up some sort of mentoring program and how we can use our venue to help support local artists, and in his case, specifically the local artists that he's dealing with. And sort of use the venue maybe as a mentoring system or even a classroom to let everyone know what it's like to be in a venue from the venue side as well as the artist side, what the expectations are, what day of show looks like. I mean, there's a lot that goes on behind the scenes of a music venue that I think a lot of musicians maybe don't understand or could certainly learn from, and vice versa. We can learn when we bring groups of musicians in. And we've talked about even setting up showcase nights in the venue. I think I mentioned last time we're doing streaming of local artists right now, and we're definitely welcome. We would welcome additional artists. I think we've finished out our schedule for the end of this year, but we'll go into next year. So anyone who wants to contact me, I know I'll do it again, but I put my email address in last time. I had other people contact me. We're open to learning and doing what we can.
Greg, thanks for, again, being on this call, being on the last call, November 9th, sharing a bit about what the work is that you do in bringing talent to stages and what the goals are, what the steps are for you and Max Music and the Neighborhood Theater and the like moving forward. I do want to follow up though, because I think one thing of note is just, again, we all recognize that Charlotte Music at this point is in a different mode because of the pandemic. The venues aren't really open. They're no ticket buyers. The live events we're so accustomed to with music and concerts, they're coming back to life very, very, very slowly. So, Greg, I think what some folks on the call may want to see and hear about is just what are the next steps for you as an organization to be able to invest in the creativity of musicians of color and also just local musicians as we get into 2021?
Sure. So I think in some ways the pandemic has created opportunities. I mean, if I just specifically talk about neighborhood theater, our focus during normal times is on national touring acts and admittedly much less on local musicians. It's my best estimate that we will not be back indoors for concerts until fall of 2021. Certainly not in venues the size of neighborhood theater or some of the larger venues in town. I think we'll see some of the smaller venues starting earlier. So the opportunity that's out there right now is with local artists. I think we can do smaller events of some sort. As we get into next year, we can continue with our streaming, which gives, and we're not the only venue in town doing it, but it gives local artists the opportunity to get in, to get a good quality video product out of a venue, and to experience again what it's like to be in a large venue, you know, sound checking, all of the things that go with normal day to day. I don't know if that totally answers the question, but I think, and to the point that things have changed during the pandemic, I mean, we're all sort of reinventing ourselves, at least for the short term. We have to.
Greg, can you speak just a little bit to who is a part of Max Music and the mentorship or pipeline of talent that's going to be created to allow for your group to basically represent more of what Charlotte looks like and is?
Sure. I think I touched on this, and it may have been after we ended the first hour last time, but the group that is Max Music, you're looking at Max Music right now. I think that one of the points I tried to make about venues around town or organizations around town, other promoters, is that we are a very small organization. So Max Music is me, an assistant, the production manager, and a lot of people who sort of are my gig workers who work day to day when I have concerts. And most of those people are not working right now. With the streams, I've been able to keep a handful of people employed, but certainly not at the level that they were in the past. That only partially answers your question. How does mentorship work? I mean, hopefully, because we are such a small organization, we're pretty flexible. It could take any shape that works out for us and works out for the Charlotte music ecosystem. I think for me, I mentioned before the conversations that I've had with Jason already about opening up the venue and maybe even having classes for up and coming musicians. I'm not the only one who's talked about that in the past. I've talked about it with other venue owners where we bring groups of musicians in who are just starting out and really give them an idea, let them ask questions, let us ask questions, and let them understand what it's like to be a venue owner or a talent buyer in an organization. So I don't begin to have all the answers right now. I think, I'm open. What I look forward to is having more conversations like I've had since the last meeting.
And for those that are watching, whether you're on Facebook or here, if you have any comments, if you have any stories, if you'd like to ask Greg anything, of course, he's not the only person we're chatting with tonight. There's so many others. But while Greg is kind of on the stage, virtual stage, if you will, if anyone would like to come on microphone or video and talk a little bit or have any ideas or questions, the floor is yours. So by all means, feel free to put a comment in the Zoom chat, raise your hand by clicking the little raise hand button, or simply if you want to unmute yourself and just say, I have something to say, please do. So anyone, I'll give you a couple seconds if anyone would like to do that before I move or pivot in a different direction. So Greg, I'll ask you this question then, in case anyone is readying themselves. With mentorship and with actually sharing that you are going to be part of this process to ensure that the stages are going to be active with, the rainbow of Charlotte talent and musicianship, how are you going to let the community know? Because luckily, of course, Jason Jett was on the call on November 9th. And so Jason was able to get in touch with you that way. That's part of what this conversation series is one could say, is that it is allowing access to individuals in Charlotte music in positions of power to let them know that there are so many individuals here that are worth investing in. So outside of this call tonight, outside the call on November 9th, what are you as Max Music, the one-man operation, the one-person operation, going to do to kind of reach into different sects of the community and welcome them or open up to say, I'm here and I'm here to listen and work?
Sure. One of the other next steps that we talked about, and I think I mentioned it, or maybe you even mentioned it on the last call, we now have an organization of Charlotte independent music venues called SIVA. So one of the next steps that we touched on, at least near the end of that meeting the last time, that we need to continue with is to have a meeting of at least representatives from this group, people who are here tonight, with not just me. I haven't scrolled down the list of people attending, but with the other music venue operators and talent buyers in town, so that we can start that connection. As I said, I've had some great conversations and interactions since the last meeting, but it can't just be me. It needs to be all the other venue owners, operators as well. And I think, you're asking me a question I haven't put a lot of thought into about how I get this message out. But I think we can use SIVA and we can use the people who are here tonight to help us spread the word. I mean, it's not, I don't have access to everyone in town. I don't have a mailing list that touches every artist in town. So I think we all need to work together to get that message out.
I think part of this conversation tonight is that it is, and I'm not going to say it's a complete cross-section of Charlotte music, because look, it's not. I know there are hundreds and hundreds, there are thousands of people working in and around music in the region that are not represented at this call. Their viewpoint, their background, it's not. So when I say cross-section, I mean this is a very small cross-section. One could say somewhat representation, it's a little representation, but not complete. So, Greg, part of this is that it is that cross-section of it, but it's a give and take. And so I think it's not expected that you are to go out and do everything, nor is it for SIVA, but it shouldn't be that everyone is brought to the table. We shouldn't need to search for these opportunities. It should be somewhere in between, where SIVA, yourself, and others are able to reach out to the Jason Jetts and the very talented musicians and find them and do the research. So I'm curious then, what investment are the venues and the individuals in positions of power going to do to ensure that they really are caring and not kind of waiting for opportunities to be brought to them?
Again, I can't speak for everyone in SIVA. I can certainly encourage the other members to do this as well. As I said, I've been fairly active since our last meeting, and I welcome, and I do again this time, any communications that I can have with anyone who's out there who can help with this process. And I'm here to listen tonight. Again, I don't know that I have all the answers. Well, as a matter of fact, I know I don't have all the answers. So, but I'm open to doing whatever I can to help with this process. I mean, I think I mentioned this last time as well. One of the things that the pandemic, maybe one of the only good things that the pandemic has done or taught us since we all had to shut down in March. Speaking, when I say us, I mean the music venue operators, is that it's much better for us to work together than separately. So I think SIVA opens up the opportunity for anyone to reach us collectively, not just send an email to the neighborhood theater or the evening muse or the visualite. It's a way to get to all of us and communicate with all of us at the same time. And I think we also all realize, when I think about mentorship, we all realize that we're stronger if we all survive this pandemic. And I think we didn't always all recognize that before. We'd get in little skirmishes over who got a certain band that was coming to town. And now that's much less important. So helping someone else get into this business, teaching someone else the right way to do it, I think is something that probably a year ago you'd have had a very difficult time getting venue owners in Charlotte to help with. I don't think that's the case anymore.
So we actually have a couple more folks that I definitely want to make sure we get brought into this conversation, especially with booking and venues. So again, if anyone has any comments or responses or stories you'd like to share, by all means, we welcome them. Feel free to unmute yourself, put yourself in the comments, and we'll call on you to come up to the stage. I want to move to John Tosco for a moment. John was on also our November 9th call. For those who may not have been on that call or who may not know of John Tosco, he's the founder and the director of Tosco Music Party, which holds a wide variety of community engagement events and live shows and virtual shows during the pandemic, and open mics, I should also say. So John, if you're here, go ahead and unmute yourself and just share a little bit of what you've been working on or what's transpired since that November 9th call and the responses from the group.
Well, hello everyone. I'm happy to be with you all again. Just to give everybody a little bit of background too, we are a very small nonprofit. And like Greg, I am the sole employee at this point. We were just beginning to build up our staff prior to when the pandemic hit. And we had just last summer, not last June, but the June before that, we had our biggest event, a weekend Beatles festival that we call Fab Fest. We were gearing up to make it even bigger, moving it into Spirit Square and expanding it from 2 days to 3 days. And then, of course, COVID came and that changed everything. But what we're doing since then, as you mentioned, is we're doing virtual events. We normally do 4 shows a year at Night Theater and 1 holiday show at McLowan Theater. And we also do close to 100 other events throughout the year that are usually very small. Most of those are in senior centers, nursing homes. And we have our monthly open mic that we do the evening muse. And so things were very active and building prior to last March. And now what we've done is with the virtual shows, we've been able to still have local performers and also reach out to even more regional and national performers who are sending in videos for our virtual shows. So part of our problem has been before COVID was getting the story out of who Tosco Music is. What is a Tosco Music Party? I think most people in Charlotte still don't even know about that, or know what one is, or know about us. And that we've been a nonprofit for 20 years. We've been doing music parties for a little over 30 years. So this has mostly been working by word of mouth over all these years. And so that has been a struggle because it's kept us from having as diverse an audience as we would like. What I started doing years ago was making a strong effort to have diversity reflected on stage, and that's been very working very well, and continues to. So we just need to. Our challenge is to build back up a staff, have get to where we can have a marketing budget to get the word out to diverse audiences to build that up. We have been also progressing in that same way with our board. We started out with just 5 board members. Now we have 19, and we still are continuing to diversify the board. And it's our volunteer base is we've been as is pretty obvious with right now with 1 employee, and prior to last March we still only had 2 other employees. We are mainly a volunteer powered organization, and we are still wanting to recruit volunteers, especially as we get back into the theater. Greg mentioned he thought it might be next fall. We're really hoping that we can make this work next June for our Beatles Festival, for Fab Fest. And last year we had just a little over 100 volunteers for that weekend, and so we're starting now to look at how we can recruit more of those ambassadors to not only work at the shows but to recruit other people to come back and be involved in helping us get that word out, bring people to our open mic, and to get folks into the audience. We've started a ticket scholarship program. Actually, we started that a few years ago, but which was mainly geared towards other nonprofits, folks who normally wouldn't be able to come to a music party, to give them tickets, a block of tickets to bring their folks out. We've always done that with performers as well. But what we're wanting to do now is to try to find ways to get the word out and let people know this is here, and let's get the folks in the community who are not coming and being part of it, both on stage, in the audience, and behind the scenes, get them involved.
So John, I thank you for sharing all that and some of the plans moving into 2021, and hopefully by June 2021. We'll hope that by then vaccines in place and we're all in a better situation worldwide. It's not just enough to encourage it sounds like threefold beyond the stage, the booking and the audience. It's also the board of directors. It's also the volunteers. It's also of course, the audience that you're trying to get in to enjoy live music. It's also retention and the engagement to be able to create a safe space and one that's allowing for fostering of creativity. So can you share a little bit about that in terms of the volunteers, the employees, the board, those that are diverse and supporting musicians, how you've been able to try to engage and retain those individuals of color, musicians of color, so they feel as if they can stay within Tosca Music's umbrella and keep supporting music?
Yeah, actually, we just applied for the CARES Act funding, where we had to do reporting on things revolved around diversity, and we've been receiving operating support from ASC since 2017, and so we are actually even tracking some of these things. And I just have a few notes here. I could tell you that last March, when we had submitted for our ASC operating support grant, we had that last year had had 159 contracted musicians, and 28% represented cultural diversity. And then the grant that we just applied for, with the CARES Act, we had 83 musicians that we've contracted with for virtual events and for live outdoor performances since March, and 36% were African American and Latinx. So that's kind of where we've been just recently with that. With our board, as I mentioned, when we became a nonprofit 20 years ago, we had 5 white men on the board. Now with 19 board members, we have 8 women and 4 members who represent diversity, and a 5th who's actually rolling off this year. So, you know, we're not just resting on our laurels and saying that's enough. There's a lot more to do, of course, but I think we're heading in the right direction, and we've got a lot to do, but we're doing well.
And the percentages, I think, are really great for folks, especially the data nerds in the audience tonight, to know what direction you're going in and that you're actually taking stock of it. Of course, with grant purposes, you need to, but I think it's still good as a marker of where you've been and where you're going. Is it feasible? What commitment could you make so that by this time next year, by the end of 2021, those percentages go up to 50%, maybe even more than 50%?
Well, my commitment, and it's not just mine, our board as well. We've already of course, this all came to really the forefront in June when everyone was talking about the Black Lives Matter movement so much, and we made a public statement, as so many others did as well, and we made a commitment to increase those numbers. We already, by the way, I mentioned we have 2 part-time contractors. They're both women, and one is African American, and we our past employees that we had before the pandemic, we had 3 out of 5 that were represented cultural diversity. So we were moving. I'm just trying to say we were already moving in this direction, and we have certainly renewed the commitment to get there. I can't promise that we will be at, from 30% to 50% by, next year. The first thing we're going to have to do is just get ourselves back into the theater. I mean, right now it's virtual shows, and we've been doing one about every 2 months. The first 2 that we did, 100% after our expenses, which include paying every performer, and we've had about 50 performers over the last 4 shows, 50 some odd performers. Besides every one of them getting paid and the production company getting paid, we were able to raise $20,000 for the Charlotte Music Community COVID-19 Relief Fund. Of course, that was also in partnership with Music Everywhere, CLT, and Fair Play, Music Equity Initiative. So, yeah, we are 100% committed, and I do see it improving as time goes by. And I also think that just society in general, not just the music community, like, this is wonderful. This conversation that we're having now, and the ones that have already been happening, like on November 9th. But I just believe that the community as a whole people are starting to want to connect more and more, and realizing, what we have in common and how we want to work together. I think we've gone through some real bumpy times as a society recently. And we're still in the middle of it all. I'm not trying to say it's all better, but I'm encouraged and extremely optimistic.
And John, again, we appreciate you being here and being able to be open to this conversation. We have a question from Megan in the audience. Megan, if you would like to come on microphone, you have a question for John?
Hi, John.
Hi, Megan. I miss you.
Miss you too. I have a question for you. You had mentioned that your board members are fairly diverse. How are you finding those people? Are they coming to you? Are you seeking them out? A combo of both?
It's mostly seeking them out. I mean, not many people come to me and say, I'm interested in being on your board.
Okay.
But our current board members are recommending people, just friends within the community, just people who would be a good fit, who could be engaged. And by the way, it's not just, checking a box and saying, well, okay, we added another African American to the board, but someone who can really bring a perspective and a voice that fits and wants to be engaged. And so, yeah, it's mostly, searching for folks, and part of reaching, we're moving forward with this commitment to improve things. There have been several conversations I've had with folks to help us with our diversity on the board and bringing in these other perspectives who are just not in a position right now to make that commitment. maybe some of them actually were already on another board and they didn't want to do a second board. Others were just feeling that what was going on in their life wasn't putting them in a position to do it right now. So down the road, hopefully they might do it. But yeah, that's been something that we've been doing for a long time, is always looking to how to grow the board and have that turnover. Because, our board terms are 3 years. But we're always open to suggestions if folks have some ideas.
John, is there a similar question to what I posed to Greg? Is there an open way that you're promoting this? I know through your website, through the Tosca Music Party website, you are allowing anyone prior to the pandemic to submit their music for consideration for the booking. But for the board considerations, are you actively allowing for board nominations and submissions? And is that widely known or available on your website?
I wouldn't say it is, no. We have 3 committees on our board. One is finance and revenue strategy, another one is marketing and development, and the third is our nominating and governance committee. And that committee has been, they do the ASC speed dating, they call it. There's a board speed dating event that happens every year with Arts and Science Council, and they will reach out to our various membership of all levels, not just our highest level donors, but all members, people who are engaged. And we don't want to just pull somebody out, say, oh well, you've got these qualifications and you don't know who we are, but we want you to be on our board. It's a relationship that's cultivated. So we're not making a call for board members, especially right now at 19 board members. We're about all we need right now. But we do have these classes moving through with board terms, and so it's mostly word of mouth. It's not something that I don't know. How many organizations advertise, looking for people to submit resumes or their interest in being on a board.
WFAE does on air and on our website. So I guess the reason I ask is because if you don't publicize it, if you don't make it widely known, it becomes more of an inner circle thing. And that way it kind of creates the barrier that you have to know someone within Tosca Music to be able to know about this. So again, asking because I feel like that's something else that could be
I'm glad
actively,
you did.
Yeah.
We definitely don't want it to be the inner circle, but that being said, you ought to know something about the organization and have somewhat involvement in the shows. I think every one of our board members has been to several of our shows. Some of them have volunteered, and that we do make an open call to volunteer, come to the show, and then hopefully develop some relationships that could turn into board service.
Yeah. So we have another question here, and it's not just posed, I think, to John, but also I think to Greg. This is something that could be something that's relevant to you. Danetta, are you here?
Yes, Danita.
Thank you.
No problem. So my question was really for those of you that are venue owners, and just as Joni was saying, it's not specifically to John Tosco, but just anybody that hosts venues. When you guys are hosting your venues, is there a certain set, especially for family oriented or the more family friendly type of venues and events? Is there a certain style of music that you look for? Like, do you have a certain set, like most pop music and whatnot? Or are you open to alternative genres of music, such as Christian, alternative rock, indie pop, reggae, just hip hop, different forms of music, just seeing how, and the reason that I ask that is because what one may consider pop may not be quote unquote charting, but they may actually have a following that could contribute to a venue. So just how do you guys decide what style of music you want at a particular event?
Well, I'll jump in real quick, just briefly. Danita, what Tosca Music is all about is a wide variety of music styles in one show. Our virtual shows that we've been doing, everyone does one song. Our live shows, it's either one or two songs. And we get as much variety in one show as we can, from jazz to blues. So we have singer-songwriters, bluegrass, a cappella groups, on and on and on. All our shows, by the way, are on our YouTube channel that you can check out anytime, the virtual shows and highlights from past ones. This show coming up, our holiday show, this Saturday, we had the trivia game about the different instruments. We have the somebody playing water glasses. We have an a cappella group, jazz. So it's we have a gospel choir. We have R&B quartets, and it's just a little bit of everything. And so, yeah, that's open to everyone, all styles.
Okay.
So, Greg, would you be able to respond to that too?
Sure. And Danita, you and I exchanged some information and emails after the last call. As far as Max Music goes, I mean, it's completely different than what John described. It's a particular show or a particular event, and it's usually themed by a given genre, but we are open to any genre music. And as I explained to you in some of the emails, we've been very successful with gospel shows in Charlotte, especially in McGlowan, the venue that several people are using as the backdrop. It's a beautiful old church, and it's a perfect setting for gospel shows. So yeah, we're completely open. I mean, we do shows that I think I explained last time. I might not even necessarily like the music, but or it may not be what I listen to on a daily basis, but we present across all genres.
And Danita, actually, I'm glad that you brought that point up, because I think that also underscores something that was brought up in our last call in November, is that there seems to be a sort of, I hate to say secrecy, but secrecy about what kind of genres are accepted or approved of, or how to get booked by some of these venues or agencies, not necessarily speaking to Max and or John Tosco, but there's no consistency. And also it kind of creates this lack of transparency of, like, it's the insiders club. You have to know someone to get booked, or you need to know their private email or way to get in touch with them. Not to say we all need to be spammed, but I think one thing, one commitment, one tactic, action item for 2021 is pertaining to SIVA, the Community Independent Venues Association that Charlotte, Greg was mentioning, and how these Charlotte independent venues can commit to encouraging transparency in their actions to allow the music community to know how to get booked, who to be in touch with if you're looking for a job or mentorship or a pipeline to get into management or maybe a role on staff. Those sorts of things, publicly known and put into the list, can allow any musician or anyone interested in working in and around Charlotte music to know what are the opportunities made available, and available to everyone, not just the people who know someone who knows someone who knows how to get to John's cell phone number. So it sounds like a great item. We do have someone here, Rick Thurmond, who's with the Charlotte Center City Partners and also the Music Everywhere, Music Anywhere initiative. Rick was on our call last as well. Rick, you said you wanted to pipe in and share some things since our November conversation.
Yeah, I could. I'd be happy to. Hey, hello, everyone. I'm also the third white male in a row. So I'm also happy to stand.
My favorite band, third white male in a row.
Well, and let some other voices into the room or to the table. And I'll use your discretion on that, Joni, because I'm conscious of that.
I mean, honestly, Rick, at this point, I mean, you're also one of the leaders of Charlotte Arts or creating opportunities for space. So I still feel like you're, this is a time for you to kind of share what are the plans and for the audience to ask. So I'd say go right ahead.
Okay, thanks. So hey everyone, so I'm with the Music Everywhere CLT initiative, which is kind of housed inside Charlotte Center City Partners and musiceverywhereclt.com. And I mean, the truth is that diversity is the strength of our music scene. If we can't enhance that and recognize that our music scene will never come close to living up to its fullest potential. That was something that we found in our research a couple of years ago. We heard it over and over as we interviewed people, did focus groups. And, you know, when we invited people to focus groups or asked people to take the survey, you know, my promise to each individual was, if you don't see yourself in the plan at the end, then we will have failed. Now, maybe we did fail in some areas, but we tried to address that strength and how to maximize that in our work. And what I would say is where we can help, to go back to the question you posed to Greg, is trying to be that connector as much as possible. So Joni, you use the analogy of the octopus arms, and there's far more than 8 in this music ecosystem. And hopefully we can play a role in helping those octopus arms be connected to a body, be connected to each other. The last thing that I would want me or Music Everywhere to be is any form of gatekeeper. You know, when we came out with the work, there are a few folks that would come to me and say, hey, can we do this? And I'm like, first of all, like, you don't have to ask. The whole point is to do it, and then just let us know so we can invite others into the mix or tell people about it. So some of the things we've been working on is really rethinking some of our communication channels. So we have an email that we send out kind of irregularly, but we have close to, at this point, I'd say 1,000 people on that, in that email database, and almost every single person is a member of the music community. So almost every single person in that database is a musician, talent buyer, they're behind the scenes, they're a sound engineer, there's someone in the music community one way or another. And we built that database through a few ways. We have a really robust social channels, Instagram being our most popular. And again, Instagram, a lot, I would say most of the, I don't know, 1,900, 2,000 followers on Instagram are in the music community. So it's, hopefully we can play a little bit of that connector role for some of these opportunities that you're hearing about, and some of the, you know, some of the things specifically that Greg was talking about. But it's also about who we collaborate with. And I'll use one example, is the Communities in Concert program that we launched a couple months ago. I've been working a lot with Blumenthal on the front end of that. But that program is essentially being managed by L. Lambert, Eddie Harris, Tim Scott, and Stefan Callender. And they're really just running with it. And we just check in once a week or so. It's provided, at this point, I think 140 gigs for local musicians over the last 2 or 3 months. And I don't have exact breakdown of numbers, but I would guess that more than half of those are musicians of color. There's been Brazilian music. We've had Latin music. We've had you name it, all kinds of talent right out for free shows for everybody to see. But all the musicians have been paid. But the key thing is, this is not just a gig program. It's an artist development program. And really, a lot of this is L. Lambert's vision. And it's how can we help artists build and launch and build careers here in Charlotte. And the way to do that is to break down some of these barriers you're talking about, to create some of these pathways, to help artists understand, how do I get into a venue? How do I get into a recording studio? How do I get featured on Amplifier, whatever the case may be? So we're going to convene a smaller group pretty soon to start talking about how do we build that piece, and how do we work with anyone, just wrote down Jason's name, interested in participating in workshops, any of those kinds of things where our local talent here can teach each other. How do we teach each other how to gain access to these things that are needed to build and launch and build careers here, and wide open for anyone to participate in that one way or the other, whether it's on the mentoring teaching side or on the sort of learning listening side. I'll put my email in the chat. But again, really where I think Music Everywhere can help is by connecting these opportunities and these pathways. I never know where to look when I'm on Zoom, by the way. And then, excuse me, And also on that, on the Music Relief Fund, for example, when we launched that, my first call was to Day Lee. And Day Lee was the person who started Fair Play Music Equity Initiative in response to some of the shortcomings in the research that we had with the Music Everywhere plan. So I said, Day, we're going to do this. I think it's needed based on some town halls we had convened. I said, but we need your help to ensure that the outcome is equitable, the outcome reaches all aspects of our community. So really, I think that's on all of us to, it's make a phone call, it's ask. If we don't know who we don't know somebody else does, and ask them, who do you know? Who else do we need to get in the room on this? But I think that's something Music Everywhere can do, is play that connector role, and use some of the channels we've developed to help make sure people are aware of all the opportunities that will be coming out of conversations like this. This is a great conversation. Thanks for hosting it.
Well, the diversity on and off stage, folks, for those that may have not heard, but this is just one of many conversations, not just with music, but also ballet and dance, with visual artistry. I mean, the list goes on, because again, music is just one small, beautiful component of this web of Charlotte area arts. So Rick, thank you for all that information. And also, as it was noted, there's so many ways to be able to work in and around Charlotte music and be featured. Rick had mentioned ways to submit music. On our website, we actually make a list of how to get featured on WFAE's amplifier. I just put that in the Zoom chat. With that said, we're getting to the end of this hour. I know it went by really quickly. We're not done yet, though. Of course, we have, as custom to the diversity on and off stage calls, we have a hang up or hang out. So for those who may not be familiar, you are very welcome to stay on this call in this Zoom room, and whomever wants to stay, you can just talk. You can have a one-on-one or group conversation, just like we were doing a bit ago, but maybe a little bit more intimate. So by all means, if you have more thoughts, more feelings, more questions, more comments, we encourage you to hang out with us. So stay in the Zoom room, or if you need to head out, we understand you have a life. It's a Monday night. So no need to feel guilty. You can leave and we won't judge you too much. With that said, I do have one little follow-up of sorts, and that's for the audience, those that have not spoken tonight. What questions do you have? What thoughts do you have remaining about what 2021 should be, what the music scene should commit to help our scene flourish? So if anyone has any comments, any thoughts, questions, if you haven't spoken just yet, I encourage you, I invite you to leave a comment in the Zoom chat, or you can also get on the microphone, get on camera, and just feel free to do that already.
Joni, while somebody's thinking of a question, I do also just want to recognize Greg, because a big part of it is showing up. And, Greg has showed up now for 2 in a row of these, and he's been, the primary, if not only, venue representative here. And so he brings that back to other settings. So props to Greg for showing up.
Yeah. I mean, to your point, Rick, I think everyone who's here tonight, we're here for a reason. You did not have to spend your Monday night on a Zoom call, another Zoom call, your 20th Zoom call of the day. So Greg, thank you. John, thank you. Rick, thank you. Danita, thank you. Megan, thank you. Everyone who's spoken up tonight. Arlethea, the diversity on and off stage crew. You've made a space to allow for this conversation, and hopefully it continues in so many ways. So you know what, actually, we do have a comment, or I should say a question we should pose to someone for the Blumenthal Performing Arts, which is part of the Diversity On and Off Stage Committee of sorts. We have our own Blues here, Boris Rogers. Blues, would you feel comfortable getting on the mic and video and sharing a little bit about what your role is at the Blumenthal now and what 2021 is going to look like with your work?
Hey, everybody. Yeah, so a lot of things happening surrounded around my position as Director of Creative Engagement is to find those opportunities for folks who don't normally get to operate in the space like Blumenthal, but not just to be able to operate in Blumenthal, but to operate and flourish where you are. in the space that you are in, and just making sure that there is space, that there is opportunity for you to do what you do. Particularly, you know, I'm a child of hip hop, so that's kind of where my loyalties lie sometimes. But I recognize that there's so many other communities out there that don't often get represented. We have a very diverse Asian American communities, our Pacific Islander communities, just so many people in this city who do things in very small pockets, you know, so they don't always get to hit a larger stage at times. So, and I think we're all here. We all know what's going on. It's just sometimes we don't see it, you know. Sometimes we miss folks in our own pursuits to kind of raise up all the other things that we're trying to do. So a part of what I want to do is not only be able to just come up with sort of creative things to do through Blumenthal, but also service those folks who don't normally get to have those opportunities, like Acoustic Grace, and we're being able to use the Brooklyn collective spaces over there. That amazing building is just so acoustically sound. So there's so many opportunities to do things in there. We've been talking with Carlos and Nueve Sud, that dance community, and what they're able to do with, you know, it's not just dance, it's circus, it's so many things. So, and when we, I think Donetta was talking about genres, and I'm literally thinking, you know, we have dance, we have hip hop, we have the music, but you know, what about our musicians? I mean, our magicians out there, those folks who are doing these very fringy things are all art. And in my head, that rolls into my wheelhouse of what we can do creatively that this city has not experienced, but it's definitely here. Because the one thing that I really want to strive to do in my position is not lose anybody to another city. Like, I've been around long enough to see a lot of really great artists leave and create an economy and an ecosystem in another city, in another town. And I'm like, oh, they were here. And we could have really used that. So it's identifying things that you know, particularly I like, but also identifying things that I think need to be serviced in areas of town that need to be serviced. Especially, you know, when folks think of Blumenthal, they think, you know, I got to go uptown, I got to find a place to park. There's a lot of things they got to do. And if there are ways that we can figure out just how you can walk outside and walk a block or two to enjoy something that you would normally enjoy uptown, then that's the work. That's a part of the work too, right? Is making things happen everywhere where people are, so that the art survives and artists survive and thrive exactly where they are, and you know, that they don't have to feel like they got to be on this part of town to make a buck. I'd rather than think like I can go over there and make a buck and then come back to my side of town and still make money. And you know, it's so spread out in everywhere. So yeah, it's it's an ambitious role, and I love it because it just gets me to use all my brain power. But with an amazing staff that's at Blumenthal, it's fun. It's really fun because everybody can see kind of the visions that come out of there, and they're like, yeah, let's figure out how to get it done. And that's the most exciting part about this job, is everybody wants to figure out how to get it done. It's not no, it's like, how can we get it done? Because us figuring out how to get it done is us figuring out how to get artists paid, is how to create ecosystems for all kind of creativeness. So it's work, it's service, and it's a love for the passion of the folks who live here. And I think that's so important. Shouts out to John Tosco, 30 years in the city, and you continue to do what you do. And you've seen a lot of come and go on that stage, and I commend you for doing that. Thank you, Mark. Thank you, Greg, for doing what you do. Like, there are folks behind the scenes that are putting in a lot of work that won't always get recognition. And that's another part of the reason why we got to do what we do, because we don't want these fellas to get burned out. Because if they get burned out, we got to pick up the torch, and we all got to be ready to do this work for these folks out here who are itching to just be seen, and let's help them get seen.
I think to Blues's point, this is a matter of us supporting Charlotte music and keeping it alive in so many ways. And that means It's not an if that they will open, it is a when, and when they are open, then they are going to be able to showcase the beauty and the diversity of Charlotte music. So to that token, of course, support Charlotte music any way you can, whether that's streaming, gift certificates, following them on social media for free, whatever you can do, all of it matters. So folks, we're going to have a performance that we're going to show in just a moment. And we're also going to continue on with our hang up or hang out. But before we do, I'm going to just kind of wrap up, I think, what the last hour has been. We've had so many different perspectives. Of course, not everything in Charlotte music, but we have a taste of what can happen in 2021 and what should happen and some trends. So the three big things I've taken away, and maybe you've taken them away too, audience, has been these three things, these three action items, these three goals for Charlotte music, hopefully commitments from those that are in SIVA, that are in the music organizations and independent venues, those in seats of power that are able to use that power to push the needle forward and encourage more progress. So the one action item I would say for 2021, based on tonight's conversation and the previous one in November, is the action item, the goal that SIVA and music organizations and leaders can commit to measuring and publicly releasing data on their bookings, their board members, their management and staff, and their volunteers in relation to diversity and inclusion. And by showing that tracking, by tracking it and publicly making it available, then they're basically holding themselves accountable, and we can hold them accountable in working towards increasing DEI initiatives based off that previous data. The second goal and action item, I would say, based off tonight's conversation, is, again, SIVA and music organizations and music leaders also publicly on their website and or social media, you name it, posting details and information on allowing artist submissions, on how to submit music for consideration for bookings, board applications, jobs that may be opening up, mentorship, management, and collaborative opportunities and pipeline moments, which again encourages transparency of how to get booked or hired or be able to reach out for potential ideas on events and the like. And the third follows up with that idea. The third action item or goal, I would say, based on tonight's conversation, based off what Blues is saying with these interesting collaborations, what Rick was mentioning and the like, is SIVA, music organizations, music leaders, committing to exploring opportunities to create connections, to be able to reinvest and reinvent the music scene for 2021. For virtual shows, music education opportunities like what Greg McCall was mentioning with Jason Jett, mentorship and artist development. So I think these three tactics, these three goals, these three commitments could be on this sheet of sorts that can really push that needle forward for Charlotte music. So again, those are what I took away, and maybe you all took them away in some similar way. So with that said, thank you again for everyone who tuned in tonight. I'm a radio person. What am I doing? Thank you for everyone who joining us tonight for this call. Whether you spoke or you commented or you listened, you are appreciated and you are so valued in Charlotte music and the arts. What we're going to do next is actually have a little performance. This typically would be a live performance, although due to some recent news, we are actually, yes, we do have t-shirts. So actually, Anna, do you want to get on mic real quick before we do the video performance?
I sure can. Hi, everyone. My name is Anna. I am a part of the Diversity on and Offstage Collective as well. And recently we teamed up with a local Black-owned business screen printing company to come up with these really cool t-shirts. So if you want to get your official swag in support of Diversity on and Offstage, you can purchase them on our website as early as this Friday. And they do come in a variety of colors. So we got a cool little hornets and we have a panther theme, but this is, I'm hoping everyone can see, the basic shirt. And again, on Friday, you can check out our website. They make great stocking stuffers, but again, it's just to wear your support as well.
Thanks, Anna. And the website link, Kitty actually just posted it a second ago. And you can also go to the website not only to purchase one of those brand new t-shirts that are literally fresh off the printer press, but to be also to be registered for future events and updates from Diversity On and Off Stage. Anna, you are an amazing model and role model in t-shirts and the like for the arts. So what we're going to do next is we're going to cap off our night tonight, wrap up our night tonight with a live but pre-recorded performance from Dominique Elcock. She is a talented music instructor with Bold Music Lessons, and she's also a Charlotte singer-songwriter who began working and writing music under her moniker of One Way North about 2.5 years ago. She's dedicating this song, this brand new song, to 2020 because, in her words, as crazy as it has been, it's also taught me some valuable lessons. So we'll go ahead and enjoy this live, but kind of not live performance from One Way North of her song, Under These Stars.
We gotta love a little stronger, and we gotta hug for a little longer, and we gotta dig a little deeper, deeper, and we always must remember we're dancing in the mighty river, dancing in the mighty river, and all is beautiful. Oh, dancing in the mighty river, dancing in the mighty river, and all is beautiful under these stars. They shine over all of us under these, oh, under these stars. Yeah, yeah, living with purpose. They hear us rolling like thunder, and oh my heart, laugh a little louder under these stars. Stay running with the wind, a child like a wonder, and oh my heart, run a little faster under these stars. Living with purpose, they hear us rolling like thunder, and oh my heart, laugh a little louder under these stars. Stay running with the wind, and child like wonder, and oh my heart, run a little faster under these stars. 'Cause they shine over all of us under these, under these stars. Just run a little faster.